Hello wargamers, it's me Callum from Tabletop Banter, and today I'm going to talk about Age of Sigmar and my views on it, and I'm going to break it down into looking at it through a few different viewpoints. So I've had time, obviously it's not new, so I've had time to read a few forums, watch a few battle reports online, and just get a general feel for the game and where Games Workshop are trying to go with it, and then I can put across to you my views on this, and this collation of all this information has given me a chance to have another look at it in more detail, if you like. So I'm going to first of all I'm going to look at it from the perspective of a hobbyist. So that's someone who builds and paints and plays the occasional game. And if you're a hobbyist, I'm sure you're looking at Age of Sigmar and going, I'll take 3, because those models are stunning. I love the painting and building aspect, and I'm not great at it by any means, but I enjoy it. It's fun for me. So I look at Age of Sigmar and I think I might buy the box set when I get some money. So they've got new models to paint, you know, they've got this wonderful fluff to read, and more importantly, it's a game that is simple to play. So for the hobbyists who don't like the complicated gaming side of fantasy, they now have a platform in which to play small games with friends. So if they bought a box set and their friends bought a box set and they just traded the stuff across, so they both have one army each, you can play a good game. You know, you can play massive games, and I think that is a good thing for hobbyists, having this simple rule set. Obviously that's only if you're a sole hobbyist. If you're a hobbyist and a gamer, then you'll probably find it slightly more frustrating, but those who just prefer the hobby now have a simple game to play, and I like that. And the rules and stuff's free, so you don't have to pay extra just to play the game. And I enjoy that as well. I think that's a very un-Games Workshop-like move, and I'm happy they did it. Are there any downsides? Are there any negatives linked to the hobbyist point of view? I can't think of any immediate ones other than cost. The actual box set itself isn't expensive for what you get, but when you then go into wanting to collect more miniatures to paint, you're going to struggle. I think the 5 Liberators is £30 or something, and that's too much. That's just way too much. I mean, £20 might be too much, but 30 is just ridiculous. So then again, if you're a hobbyist, you probably want something with a good sculpt. So I suppose you pay for the actual like resin, you are paying for the model and its gaming potential. I'm now going to look at it from the point of view of someone who plays 40k, which is me, obviously. And I like it. I think some of the rules are too simple, and I don't like the army building situation where you just bring as much as you can and then throw it all on a table. However, simple rules and good looking models I enjoy. The gameplay, I don't know yet because I haven't played it myself. From what I've watched online, it can be tactical, but it's in a different respect to the tactics that you might be used to in other games. It's more a case of what do I choose to hit first, or what can I choose to like move in. If I move in this direction, or if I charge this unit, is the other one going to be hampered by it? And it's a different kind of tactics. I think more will develop later on once you find yourself playing more games, if you choose to. And the early tactics might just seem like push everything in the middle and fight, but I think there's a bit more to it than that, and I don't think that the hardcore fantasy players are looking at it in a different way. I think they're still trying to compare it to fantasy, and I don't think that's the way to do it. I think it's a whole new game, and obviously as a 40k player it's easier for me to say, because to me it is a whole new game. So I am looking forward to hopefully playing some in the future. Let's put it that way. I am not worried that it's gonna be a flop. I don't think that it has been already. I think that Games Workshop have invested money in this, obviously, in time to a degree, and I think if they're going to put their backing behind it, they could take this hobby, this particular hobby, pretty far. My one criticism of their work would be the rules that are silly. Like, if my mustache is bigger than yours, I get to re-roll this. I think that is not good. I think what they've done there is they've put all this hard work into making these beautiful miniatures, and they've put a bit of work into coming up with a simplistic rule set, and they then said, hey, we're not taking ourselves seriously. Let's say if you've got a bigger moustache, you know, or if you wear a hat, then you can have unlimited attacks. Like, don't say stuff like that. You're kind of putting your own game down. It's kind of like if you make a joke about yourself. I do this all the time. I'm suspect of it myself. But if you make a joke about yourself, some people are going to start to be like, well, maybe it's true. Like, you've got to take yourself a little bit seriously if you're a massive gaming corporation and you make this fantastic miniatures set and you go through the effort of putting all the money into it, and then you just say, well, we're kind of kidding, and then it's like, no, don't do that. Just don't do that. So I am disappointed, but then I think a lot of players are just going to omit those rules anyway and say they don't exist. And rightly so, because they're silly. So the next kind of point of view I'm going to go from is a multi-hobbyist, so the kind of gamer who has his fingers in all of the gaming pies. So someone who plays 40k, fantasy, War Machine Hordes, maybe Malifaux, Bolt Action, Flames of War, any of those, or most of those. I think from their point of view, they're getting another gaming platform. However, I do honestly think that they won't pick up the game because of the simplistic rules, and they're used to not having simplistic rules, so they can understand and pick up rules a lot quicker. So those people who are competitive and who play across 3 or 4 gaming platforms are probably not going to touch Age of Sigmar with a barge pole. Would I say that's a good idea? No, I think you should always give a game a chance. I'd be willing to try any of the games presented to me, provided I had the models, or I knew someone who had the models that I could borrow, and the rules weren't too bad. Like, if I have to spend a weekend reading and learning the rules just to start the game, I'll probably be a little bit skeptical. But if I could play a game of Bolt Action with someone, I'd give it a go. Or if I could play a game of well, fantasy with someone and I had a bit of a knowledge on the rules, I'd give it a go. But these kind of gamers I don't think will try Age of Sigmar very much. I would say try it, because you never know, you might enjoy this kind of simplistic skirmish style game. But, you know, I can't say go and do it. I'm just saying have a slightly more open mind, perhaps. I think that's been a big problem with Age of Sigmar, is people have not looked at it with an open mind, and they've gone in immediately saying it's worse than fantasy, and more people will jump on that bandwagon the more it gets spread. I'm not saying the game's perfect by any stretch, and I'm not saying that fantasy players aren't disappointed. I'm just saying I think it's been blown out of proportion. And then I suppose another way to look at this from another person's perspective are the fantasy players now. I've read enough forums to know that the majority of them aren't liking it, because they feel that fantasy has died, and in its place has been put something that is 40k. It's not. Don't even try and kid yourself. It's nothing like 40k. The miniatures are slightly more futuristic. Fine. It's still not 40k. Like, that would be like me saying every other game that's not 40k is fantasy. Please, you've got to approach this as a new gaming system instead of Games Workshop making a 40k part 2. I think I understand frustration, because the game that you played a lot before is now being phased out, if you like, by Games Workshop. But that doesn't mean you can't play it. That doesn't mean you can't play with your friends or playing other gaming shops. Someone on a forum had a massive rant about how now Games Workshop's never going to let me play fantasy in there again. And 2 comments lower, it was like, what about other gaming clubs? Come on, think a little bit. I mean, where I'm from, when I go to uni in Swansea, there's one Games Workshop, and there are 3 gaming clubs. Where I am in Portsmouth at the moment, there is 1 Games Workshop and 5 gaming clubs. So it's not like Games Workshop is the only place you can play these games. You're going to find people who also want to play fantasy if it's that much of a big deal. So I don't see why you're sweating about that. There'll still be fantasy tournaments, there'll still be fantasy games, fantasy forums. So, okay, the rules won't get updated, but someone will take that role. So another company will probably end up saying, well, a bit like with D&D, I know that there was like apparently 4th edition or something was rubbish, and then a new thing came out that was like old D&D and everyone jumped ship. That will happen for those who want to play fantasy still. I just think that it's been blown way out of proportion, to be quite honest, and I think people are not giving Age of Sigmar a chance. Not, I'm saying it's the perfect game. Again, I want it because I want the models, and if I've got the models, I might as well play the game. But yeah, there are things I would definitely have to house rule, which is a shame. You don't really want to be making house rules like for points and stuff, but I'd have to come up with a system for that if I was going to invite anyone into play. So there, I've kind of given you a couple of points of view that I found on the internet and my own, just of Age of Sigmar. Like I said, I quite like it. I'm expecting people to have different opinions, and that's good because that creates debate, but it's debate that I want to create, not hate. And that was a lot of rhyming, and I did not mean that. It just came out. So basically, leave your comments below as to what you thought of my opinions and how I've broken it down. Let's try and keep those distasteful comments to a minimum. I believe in the whole, like, you can say what you want sort of thing, but be polite about it. I think it's unfair to just straight away just start saying rude things on the internet, especially. It's easier when you're not face to face with the person you're talking to be mean. So let's try and keep our comments constructive. But with that in mind, please share your opinions. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, because it's the subscribers that make me want to keep doing this, that get me more engaged in my hobby, and I thank you very much for that. And have fun.